The level of scrutiny and outright hostility aimed at Cristiano Ronaldo right now is genuinely unlike anything this sport has produced around any single player in recent memory. And that statement means something, because football has never been short of strong opinions about its biggest names or reluctant to express those opinions at maximum volume across every available platform.
If Ronaldo is a team player, I think he should step down and understand that he has to be a player that comes off the bench as an impact player.
There's only one position on a pitch at 41 years of age you should be starting a game, and that's goalkeeper for me.
He negatively impacts on the rest of the players in terms of what they have to give, because they feel they've got to pass him, we've got to do that.
But what is happening around Ronaldo at this 2026 World Cup is operating on a completely different level from ordinary sports criticism. It has become something closer to a cultural event in its own right, with millions of people apparently tuning in to Portugal's matches not because they support another team in the competition, but specifically and exclusively because they want to see what Cristiano Ronaldo does next. Every missed opportunity becomes a viral moment within minutes. Every heavy touch gets compiled into a fail reel and distributed across platforms before the half has even finished.
We're having the Ronaldo discussion already, you know, 1 week into the competition.
He just doesn't give you a whole lot. If he's not scoring goals, if he's not creating or he's not getting opportunities because he's not creating opportunities for himself or for anybody else, then the team is playing so that they can find an opportunity for him.
Every look of frustration on his face gets screenshotted and captioned and turned into content that generates engagement numbers that most creators would trade careers for. The hate watch around CR7 at this tournament has become a phenomenon that deserves serious examination, not just as a sports story, but as a window into how social media has fundamentally transformed the way the world engages with its most recognizable sporting figures.
Ronaldo, if he would be a real team player, he would step down and let the young players flow.
For nearly 2 decades, Cristiano Ronaldo was genuinely untouchable in the specific sense that his performances consistently and completely justified the level of attention they generated. He was the superstar who carried Portugal through moments that would have broken lesser players, who scored in tournaments when his team needed him most, who shattered records that had stood for generations, who built one of the most statistically extraordinary careers in the entire history of professional football. The attention he commanded was earned. The discussion he generated was grounded in genuine and documented achievement. But at the 2026 World Cup, at 41 years old, he has become the center of an extraordinary and specific kind of criticism.
Have you worked on a special plan to try and contain Ronaldo?
To be honest, not really, because we know that he isn't the same as before. He's a bit older now.
And the match against the Democratic Republic of Congo demonstrated everything that is making people both fascinated and frustrated simultaneously. Portugal were expected to win that game comfortably. This was not supposed to be a competition, a DRC side against a Portuguese squad stacked with Champions League quality across every position. João Neves scored early, and the comfortable victory that every analyst had predicted seemed to be falling neatly into place. And then everything stalled. And then the game somehow became competitive. And then Portugal ended up drawing a match they were very lucky not to lose, against a team they should have been managing with controlled efficiency from the opening 15 minutes. At the center of Portugal's deeply disappointing performance was Cristiano Ronaldo. Starting as the lone striker, the position that his physical attributes and his goal-scoring intelligence make him most naturally suited to in theory.
Would Ronaldo be mad if you didn't pass it to him? Sometimes when I watch some of your goals, like, come in, and you hit it on the volley, and he's
we were
like...
speaking about it just before. I've had a few arm flails, and I've missed a one-on-one, and I maybe could have passed to him, but...
The 41-year-old looked isolated for long stretches of the match. Portugal's attack flowed around him rather than through him in ways that are becoming increasingly familiar and increasingly concerning the longer this tournament runs. His involvement was surprisingly limited for the player who remains the undisputed focal point of Roberto Martinez's tactical system. The numbers from that match told a specific and uncomfortable story. Fewer than 30 touches across 90 minutes, no shots on target across the entire game. And then the specific moment that crystallized the broader problem, Portugal's best opportunity of the entire match, the kind of chance that the system had worked hard to generate, ruined by a decision and an execution that fell short of what the moment required. In a match that ended in a draw that felt like a defeat, that missed opportunity felt like the definitive statement of where Ronaldo is right now relative to what the biggest games at the biggest tournament require. Engele Maluka, the Democratic Republic of Congo midfielder, added to the storyline during his post-match interview in a way that DRC supporters immediately turned into viral content. Rubbing salt into wounds has never been so publicly celebrated as it has been in the social media era of football coverage. But here is a take that deserves to be said clearly, even though it might not get the same kind of engagement as pure Ronaldo criticism. The Portugal performances beyond Ronaldo have been far from impressive, and the attention being lavished on his individual shortcomings is providing significant and unearned cover to several other players who are underperforming at exactly the moment the competition demands their best. Vitinha, described by serious football analysts as arguably the best central midfielder in world football right now, a player whose technical quality and tactical intelligence at Paris Saint-Germain across a trophy-winning campaign made him one of the most discussed midfielders in European football. That Vitinha was barely visible against the Democratic Republic of Congo. The DRC midfield ran through the territory he was supposed to control with a freedom and a confidence that should never have been available to them against this quality of opponent. He was getting booked by DRC midfielders who should not have had the time on the ball or the space to operate the way they were operating. Bruno Fernandes, one of the most creative and most dangerous playmakers in world football when he is performing at his actual level, struggled to create the kinds of opportunities that his club form and his international track record say he is capable of generating. The supposed best player from arguably the most competitive and most globally respected league in the world was having one of those games where the quality that makes him special simply did not show up at the moment it was needed most. And Roberto Martinez, a manager who has arguably the deepest and most talented attacking squad available to any international coach at this World Cup, a collection of creative, physically capable, technically refined attacking players that most national team coaches would structure their entire tactical system to unleash, appears to be deploying that collection with a conservatism and a lack of forward urgency that has made Portugal at times resemble a team so afraid of being caught on the counter that they have forgotten they are supposed to be one of the competition's attacking threats. But none of that analysis is generating the volume of discussion that Ronaldo is generating, because when he is on the pitch, he becomes the conversation regardless of everything else that is happening around him. That is simultaneously one of the most remarkable things about what he has built across his career and one of the most significant problems for a Portugal team that needs its components to be evaluated and adjusted with clear eyes. Now let us address the specific nature of the Ronaldo situation honestly, because he deserves honest assessment rather than pure protection or pure pile-on. His confidence has always been his superpower. The specific quality of belief in his own ability, absolute, unwavering, independent of what the scoreline says or what anyone around him thinks, is what produced the career that has made him one of the 2 or 3 most discussed footballers in history.
6-1, no Cristiano Ronaldo in the starting 11, but all the headlines, and rightly so, will go to 21-year-old Gonzalo Ramos scoring a hat-trick on his first World Cup start.
At every previous stage of his career, that confidence was a resource that made him better rather than simply a personality trait. It drove him to train harder. It drove him to deliver in big moments because he genuinely believed he was the right person to deliver in them. It drove him to come back stronger after setbacks rather than being defined by them. At 41, that same confidence is starting to read differently to the people watching from the outside. It reads less like the engine of extraordinary performance and more like a refusal to acknowledge what time has done to the body underneath the mentality.
This is purely a performance-based decision. Purely. And he was vindicated with bells on it.
And when confidence becomes detached from the physical reality of what a player can currently offer at the highest level, it stops being an asset and starts creating a specific kind of problem for the team around it. The frustration that has become visible in Ronaldo's on-field body language when things are not going well. The emotional reactions to moments of individual disappointment. The impression, whether accurate or not, that the ball should always be finding him, and that when it does not, the system has failed rather than the system being sensibly used. All of it contributes to a picture that even the most committed Ronaldo supporters are finding increasingly difficult to defend with the specific arguments they were able to deploy at earlier stages of his career. The comparison that has circulated online with genuine traction is to Homelander from The Boys, and while it is clearly operating in the register of playful exaggeration rather than serious character analysis.
When I cry, it's not because I cry because I felt that if I don't score that penalty and if Portugal will be eliminated, the world will collapse on me. Not because of that real, no. It's people they don't know me.
It captures something real about the specific combination of extraordinary ability, need for recognition, and emotional volatility that has characterized Ronaldo's public persona across the recent period. A figure of genuine and documented power, deeply invested in being seen as the most important presence in any room he occupies.
Ronaldo, as a football player, is not just a football player to Portugal and the Portuguese team. He's way beyond up there. So how do you think that affects the team when the guy who's way up there looks as though he's mentally collapsed?
Wearing his emotional state in ways that are immediately visible and immediately readable by everyone watching, and genuinely struggling when the attention or the success he believes he deserves does not materialize in the ways he expects. The goal he desperately wanted to be credited for at the 2022 World Cup, the Bruno Fernandes ball that everyone watched bounce in with Ronaldo's body in the vicinity, became its own kind of cultural moment because it crystallized something that even sympathetic observers had been noticing. His desire to be involved in and credited for the biggest moments sometimes works against the team rather than for it. Free kicks that should be taken by the best option in the specific situation on that specific day. Penalties that default to him regardless of form. Game-winning opportunities that he gravitates toward because the biggest moments belong to him by right in his own understanding of how the team should function. Now let us be completely direct about the fan situation, because the behavior of a significant portion of his most devoted supporters is actively damaging his reputation in ways that the football itself has not managed to do as efficiently. When João Neves scored Portugal's only goal against the Democratic Republic of Congo, the single moment of genuine attacking quality that Portugal produced across 90 minutes of a game they drew when they should have won by a distance, his comment sections were targeted by Ronaldo supporters. His crime? Saying in an interview that success comes from the collective rather than from any one individual. That team success requires shared responsibility. That is not an attack on Ronaldo. That is a statement about how football works that no serious person disputes. And it generated hundreds of thousands of hostile comments. Bruno Fernandes found himself in an identical situation, accused by members of the Ronaldo supporter community of deliberately withholding service from Ronaldo, of prioritizing his own game over creating for the team's biggest star, of essentially being a traitor to the Portuguese national team project because his performance in a specific match did not center itself around getting the ball to CR7 with maximum frequency and maximum priority. The idea that professional footballers representing their country at the World Cup, one of the most prestigious and most personally meaningful competitions any athlete can participate in, are actively sabotaging a teammate requires a specific kind of motivated reasoning to sustain that most people outside the committed supporter community simply cannot access. The involvement of Ronaldo's family in the online situation extended the conversation in ways that reflected exactly the kind of thin-skinned institutional sensitivity that makes the broader Ronaldo discourse so uniquely exhausting. The laughing emoji responses, the social media activity that communicates defensive dismissal rather than confident engagement with legitimate criticism. When a player's family is weaponizing social media against the analysis of respected football experts and the legitimate criticism of serious commentators, the optics are not favorable regardless of how you feel about the underlying assessment. Thierry Henry's analysis of Ronaldo's performance became a specific flashpoint, and the response from the Ronaldo community to Henry's commentary was revealing in exactly the way that these situations always are. Henry was not personally attacked because his argument was demonstrably wrong. He was attacked because his credentials were being challenged as the counter-argument, but credentials do not determine whether a specific football observation is accurate or not. The observation stands or falls on its own merits regardless of the record of the person making it. And the consistent failure to actually engage with the substance of what Henry said, to point to specific evidence that contradicts his assessment while simultaneously questioning his authority to make it, tells you everything about the strength of the counter-argument available to the people making it. The precedent from the Qatar World Cup deserves specific and serious examination because the pattern it established is repeating with uncomfortable precision at this tournament. Ronaldo started reasonably well in Qatar, scoring against Ghana, generating early momentum, appearing to be on track for the kind of contribution that his supporters expected and that the team's system was designed to enable. But as the quality of opposition increased and the tactical demands of knockout football became more specific and more unforgiving, the concerns about what the team looked like with him as the focal point returned with increasing force. The Fernando Santos decision to drop Ronaldo to the bench against Switzerland in the round of 16 was one of the most discussed single managerial decisions in World Cup history. Gonzalo Ramos replaced him and produced a hat-trick in a 6-1 demolition. A performance of such stunning individual quality and such perfect collective integration that it immediately and irrevocably reopened the question that the people around Ronaldo had been trying to keep closed for years. Were Portugal genuinely better without him at the center of their attacking system? The attack looked faster without the need to manage the ball around a striker whose declining physical capacity limited the pressing intensity the rest of the team wanted to apply. The pressing was more aggressive because every player was expected to contribute equally, rather than managing one player's workload at the expense of the collective output. The goals came from multiple sources and multiple directions rather than from one point of concentration that sophisticated opponents could organize defensively against. Ronaldo watching from the bench while Ramos produced one of the most celebrated individual World Cup performances in recent years was the specific and visible crystallization of attention that had been building for much longer than that single tournament. It was the moment when the question stopped being whispered privately among football analysts and started being screamed loudly by everyone watching. And then the subsequent matches, the quarter-final exit to Morocco, with Ronaldo only introduced late and Portugal unable to find the equalizer that would have kept the dream alive, confirmed that the question could not be answered cleanly in either direction. He came on, the comeback did not materialize, Morocco held on, and Portugal went home. Was that Ronaldo's fault? Partially, perhaps, in the sense that the team structure around him had limited the attacking freedom that his absence against Switzerland had demonstrated was possible. Was he the only reason Portugal lost? Absolutely not. Morocco were extraordinary throughout that tournament and deserved everything they achieved. The Euro 2024 experience reinforced the pattern rather than resolving it. Martinez brought Ronaldo back to the absolute center of the project with complete commitment and complete public support. The qualification results looked impressive on paper. Goals scored, games won, Ronaldo's personal scoring statistics continuing to accumulate in ways that his supporters could cite as evidence of continued relevance. But when the tournament itself arrived and the opposition quality increased to genuinely elite levels, the same concerns that had surfaced in Qatar surfaced again with renewed intensity. The penalty miss against Slovenia, the tears on the pitch, the goalkeeper save that left Ronaldo visibly overwhelmed in a moment that was simultaneously deeply human and deeply uncomfortable to watch depending on which framework you brought to it. His teammates gathered around him. The cameras caught it all. The internet processed it immediately and generated the full spectrum of responses from profound sympathy to pointed criticism in roughly equal measure. Portugal survived because Diogo Costa saved every single Slovenian penalty in the shootout. The goalkeeper became the hero in the specific way that goalkeepers sometimes do in moments of genuine knockout pressure. And Ronaldo walked away from that penalty miss eventually, found his goal. Contributed to the tournament's later stages, remained the emotional heart of everything Portugal did publicly. But the question about what the team looked like with his absolute centrality as its organizing principle never got quieter. It got louder. Because 360 minutes of a major international tournament without a goal from open play is a specific and documented indictment of an attacking system. And the most visible feature of that system was its absolute and deliberate orientation around one player. The France quarterfinal defeat ended it, the tournament in which every attack needed to end with Ronaldo. the tournament in which one of the deepest attacking squads available to any international manager at a major competition spent most of its time trying to find ways to get the ball to a 40-year-old man whose physical limitations had placed genuine and measurable constraints on what the whole system could do. And now, here we are at the 2026 World Cup. The same conversation, the same tension between loyalty to what Ronaldo has historically represented and honest assessment of what he currently provides. The same brilliance in specific moments, the positioning, the finishing intelligence, the specific quality of predatory awareness in and around the penalty area that has never left him, existing alongside the same limitations in terms of what he can contribute to the team's pressing intensity, its defensive work, its collective energy across 90 minutes at the highest level. Here is the honest and complete truth about the Ronaldo situation that the loudest voices on both sides of the debate are failing to say clearly enough. He is not the only problem with this Portugal team. He has never been the only problem. Replacing him with Gonçalo Ramos does not automatically solve the tactical conservatism, the defensive positioning, the midfield vulnerability, or the collective pressing intensity issues that have been visible in Portugal's performances. There are real and specific questions about Martinez's tactical approach that deserve serious engagement, and that the obsessive focus on Ronaldo as a single variable consistently obscures. But he is a genuine contributing factor to specific limitations in what this Portugal team can do at its best. His centrality to the system constrains the options available to the players around him in ways that are visible and documented. His presence as the designated finishing point of attacking sequences reduces the unpredictability that a team with this much technical quality could otherwise generate. And the specific physical demands of pressing-intensive modern international football at the World Cup knockout stage are demands that the extraordinary physical capabilities of his 20s and early 30s simply cannot be matched by the equally extraordinary but differently configured capabilities of his 41st year. What makes Ronaldo unique in the history of this conversation is that his legendary status is so complete and so documented that it exists entirely independently of what happens at this specific World Cup. His career has been made. His records are set. His achievements are in the historical record in ways that nothing that happens in these weeks in the United States can diminish or take away. He will go down as one of the 2 or 3 most consequential players in the history of professional football, regardless of whether this tournament ends early or produces the World Cup winner's medal that remains the one thing missing from a collection that has everything else. The irony is perfect. His greatest strength and his greatest weakness at this point in his career are exactly the same thing. He is Cristiano Ronaldo. That name guarantees attention. Those achievements guarantee expectations. His presence in any game makes the game about him in ways that no other player currently active in international football can claim. Whether people love what he is doing or despair of it, whether the specific moment is a brilliant no-look finish or a heavy touch that gives possession back to a team that should never have had it, the conversation is always about him. Nobody can stop talking about him. Nobody even genuinely wants to stop talking about him. Because the story of Cristiano Ronaldo, at 41 years old, at a World Cup, still competing, still trying, still wearing his heart on his sleeve in ways that generate genuine emotion even from people who are simultaneously criticizing everything about his role in the team, is one of the most compelling sports stories currently being told anywhere on Earth. We will never see another player quite like him. Whatever this World Cup produces for Portugal and for Ronaldo personally, whatever the outcome of the knockout stages, whatever the final verdict of this specific tournament on the question of whether he can still be the decisive factor in the biggest moments, that is the one thing both his most devoted supporters and his most committed critics can agree on. Drop your honest thoughts in the comments right now. Is Ronaldo helping or hurting Portugal's genuine World Cup chances? And should Martinez have the conversation that nobody around the squad seems willing to have, or does the legacy and the historical contributions of CR7 earn him the right to decide for himself when the time to step back has genuinely arrived?